Welcome to the NintenFusion podcast, a podcast that fuses past, present, and future Nintendo thought. I'm David, accompanied by my friend Jordan. So, Jordan, what are we talking about today? What big thing happened?
So today they had New York Comic Con, and at New York Comic Con, they were going to reveal the Mario movie, and Nintendo decided, instead of just having it be just a New York Comic Con reveal, that they would make a quick direct. That would be worldwide, so everyone could enjoy or join in the reveal of the new Mario movie. And that's why the direct started at like weird time. It was like 2:07 because they had to like start up the convent or the panel for 7 minutes before they could get to the actual direct.
It was actually kind of fun to hear them say, hello, everyone. And that's part of the Nintendo Direct and at the Comic-Con. It was kind of cool to hear the call out for both.
Yeah. We got our first look at the Mario movie, and we'll talk about that later. It kind of had us talking a bit earlier what kind of like movies and other projects Nintendo has done in the space before, which turns out is not a lot.
No. It's honestly kind of crazy how little Nintendo has actually ventured outside of the video game media. Like, yeah, Pokemon kind of dominates the charts when it comes to movies and all of that fun stuff, but pretty much everything else has rarely been touched by non-video game media. Yeah. And we think that should change.
So Nintendo, of course, tried this decades ago, back in the 90s with the Super Mario Bros. Movie. They decided Mario was the IP that they wanted to start with. Once again, they're doing that now. And they made the infamous Super Mario Bros. Movie, which did not go well. Have you ever seen this movie?
I have seen large chunks of it, but I've never watched the entire thing start to finish.
I've had the unfortunate experience of watching it multiple times.
Multiple?
Yes. I have many friends who think it's fun to go back and watch that at a party because they think cringe movies are great. And more so they like watching me cringe at the movie than actually watching the movie because I can't stand it. I think the movie's awful, which is not a hot take at all.
Well, it's so bizarre because, of course, it takes place in actual New York for a good chunk of it and then like goes to the Mushroom Kingdom or whatever. But it's still like super grungy and we are like adult men and we want things to be kind of scary and not cartoony at all. And it's so weird.
Yeah, it went through its adult remake phase before even having like its normal phase. Like a lot of film franchises during the 2000s and 2010s went through like this dark, gritty reboot phase. Mario just started there for some reason, and it was not a good choice.
No, it really wasn't.
We've heard from interviews and stuff that like the director thought that Mario was stupid and wanted to like make their own movie, and they were kind of just tied to the Mario property. The main actor for Mario thought the whole thing was a nightmare. I can't really quote the exact words he said on this family-friendly podcast. But he basically would just show up drunk every day because he just gave up on the project.
Oh, man. That just does not sound great. I mean, you can find clips of it all over YouTube and whatnot. And of course, it has been YouTube pooped to oblivion by this point. But like, it has some really iconic like character designs. Like, if you haven't seen a Goomba from this movie, like, you won't believe it's a Goomba.
It doesn't look like a Goomba at all. Man.
It's like a very tall, muscular man with like a super awkward head that's like clay or something. It's weird.
So was it established in the Mario like lore that he's from kind of a New York style area before this movie? Or did this movie like contribute that to the lore before Mario Odyssey came out and kind of changed it to Metro Kingdom? Because we know Mario was a referee in Punch-Out, and he had something to do with Donkey Kong. Like, there wasn't a whole lot to work with at the time. You had the Donkey Kong games, you had Punch-Out, and you had the Mario trilogy, as well as the Mario Brothers arcade game, which has like nothing to work off of.
See, Mario has the deepest lore of like literally any media franchise out there. It's not like they're constantly rewriting it or anything, you know? Like there is one consistent storyline throughout the entire thing.
But I don't think Nintendo themselves have ever like said Mario is from New York. I think that came from the movie, and fans, that's just been like a thing fans were saying as if it was canon throughout the entirety of Mario's existence up until we got Metro Kingdom and Mario Odyssey. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it came from the movie. I mean,
if you literally search for where is Mario from, Google says Brooklyn, New York. And it takes you to the Wikipedia page.
Yeah, I don't think any official Nintendo product has ever actually said that, but Google needs to update because, to be fair, I don't think they've even stated that he's from Metro Kingdom.
Yeah, from the Wikipedia article, all it says is that the TV series and film depict Mario and Luigi as originating from New York, but it doesn't look like anything states that in the games. In fact, you know from Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, that Mario was delivered to the Mushroom Kingdom as a baby.
That's right,
via stork. Like, if that's
so
canon,
this new movie's already not canon.
Yeah, I know. We'll talk about that part later.
He's from the Yoshi Island.
But hey, Mario's birthday is October 11th, so that's actually in like 5 days. So, according to Nintendo Power. But anyway, it's super weird how the movie and TV series are like, this guy is from New York. And we're all like, okay, but how did he get to the Mushroom Kingdom from New York? Is the Mushroom Kingdom a real place? The movie's like, no, it's a magical place they teleport to, right? Like they go through some pipe and end up in an alternate world. I don't remember.
Yeah. And so this movie was so bad. Nintendo has not made another movie with their properties really since then. They've had their characters show up in other movies, such as like Pixels and Wreck-It Ralph. And I believe, did Nintendo produce The Wizard or?
Oh, I don't remember.
I know Nintendo had a big part in The Wizard. That was where we got like the Power Glove stuff, if I remember right, in the 1993 World Championship thing where they revealed Mario Bros 3 or whatever, and a lot of people nowadays criticize the movie because they're like, how does this kid in this competition know some of these secrets and the Mario Bros 3 like flying off screen in his speed run when it's his first time playing the game. But
I honestly do not recall that at all. But
yeah, we got Bowser in Wreck-It Ralph, which was kind of a compilation of video games.
But he also didn't speak at all. He just like made his trademark roar. But he's just in the bad guy group. As
we've said multiple times in those podcasts, Nintendo can be a bit too stingy with other parties working with their IP, sometimes to the detriment of the games themselves that work on it. Like Nintendo should have more faith in partners, especially like intelligent systems and stuff with creative rights. But
sorry, the Paper Mario games are always going to suffer. Like Miyamoto's never letting that go until he retires. Like, come on. But yeah, I mean, there are some instances where the properties have worked out somewhat, but they're all super old. I don't know. I know that a lot of people really love the Kirby Right Back Atcha anime. That was honestly one of the best things that Nintendo has done. But then again, I guess Kirby is technically owned by HAL.
Yeah, was it HAL at the time? I don't even know if Kirby was Nintendo yet.
Probably wasn't, honestly. I mean, this was the early 2000s for Kirby Right Back Atcha.
Well, it was translated in the early 2000s. I don't know when it came out in Japan.
That's right. See, Kirby Right Back Atcha was like foundational to how much I loved Kirby, because like I had played some of the Kirby games before, but it wasn't until like Right Back Atcha that I was like, yeah, no, Kirby's freaking awesome. It gave us all sorts of interesting lore that isn't technically canon to the actual Kirby games. I sense a pattern going on with that. But it was super cool. Like Kirby was a star warrior that had landed on this planet and was just going to help. And King Dedede was kind of a klutz, but also kind of a really fun character. And I just remember having a really fun time with that whole show. I don't know if you ever watched it.
Yeah, I really liked it as a kid. It was one of my favorite parts of the Fox block for Saturday morning cartoons at the time. I was the correct age demographic for the show at the time too. So.
Same here. I mean, we're almost the same age, so it works out. Then there were some not so, successful adaptations for TV shows.
Say what you will about Donkey Kong. I loved the Donkey Kong TV show when it was around.
All I know is that it spawned one of the best memes ever, which is like you may slap it once.
Like, it's been mocked to no end, and I'm fine. I love the mocking as well. But when I was a kid, I was always really excited for us to get more Donkey Kong.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. It's just, it's 90s animation, right?
Yeah. And I didn't even watch it like as it came out. I think I watched it like years after it was done with its release, just on VHS tapes that I'd find at the library.
I mean, I haven't really watched any of it, but I've definitely seen clips of it because it's funny.
Yeah. I believe that was a bit earlier in the 90s. Nintendo was a lot more open to TV shows during the 90s, like Nintendo proper. Obviously, got Kirby with Hal and Pokemon with the Pokemon Company, which we'll get to in a sec. But during the 90s and 80s, we got the Super Mario Super Show and Captain N and a bunch of other projects like that, and Donkey Kong, of course.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's probably because they weren't quite the behemoth of a company at that point. Video games are still super popular, but it's not like today where, they've built up this massive install base of millions upon millions of people just from video games. So it was probably a really good way to kind of expand their portfolio and get more people interested in their games, because every kid was like watching TV, Friday night, Sunday or Saturday morning and be like, oh yeah, that's Mario. I should maybe ask my mom for a console so I can play it. It was a much different time compared to the internet of now.
Yeah, and it was also during the time of basically TV shows being used as commercials for kids' toys.
Right.
So Transformers and My Little Pony and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was
which all had great TV shows, by the way. Like, yeah,
for the time.
There's a reason why they were successful.
I don't think they're very good to go back to now, but
No. But they were awesome back then. There's actually some really cool documentaries on Netflix right now. There's like it's like the toys that made us, I think is the name of the show. If you haven't watched the like Transformers episode on that, it's really cool because it delves into why the TV show made the toys work and a bunch of other cool things. But anyway, I that's definitely like one of the main drivers of shows back in the 80s and 90s was commercials.
Yeah, I will say as a kid, I really hated the Legend of Zelda cartoon.
Well, excuse me, Jordan.
No. Oh man, it felt so wrong, especially since I didn't get into Zelda until Ocarina of Time. So
yeah,
there was more to the lore of Zelda by that point than when the TV show came out. Like the TV show, they had nothing to work with, right? They
had the instruction manual for 1, 2, and maybe Link's Awakening. I don't know the actual time frame, but
I still don't understand like what the point of the Triforce is in that cartoon. It's a MacGuffin for the sake of MacGuffin, and it's just thrown around a lot.
But hey, Zelda is really sassy and kind of funny, but
yeah, and
Link is obnoxious.
Wasn't Navi as well? Or wasn't Navi? It was some random fairy.
Yeah, it was a random fairy. That's another really funny show to meme. Everyone knows the line, excuse me.
Yeah. Did that come out before or after the CDI games?
I imagine before.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. It came out in 89. So that would have been before the CDI games.
Yeah, the Zelda CDI games, I think, were in 93. Yeah. I've got it right here. 1993 was the first one. So the CDI games are also hilarious and still ridiculous that they worked out. Another reason for Nintendo to put a check mark in that we should not give our properties to other companies column.
Yeah, Nintendo learned pretty hard during the 80s and 90s that they should just not trust other companies. with their multimedia projects.
Right. And I mean, this is kind of jumping the gun a little bit. We're going to still talk about the Mario trailer later, but it seems like working hand in hand, Nintendo with another company is going to provide the best results for the IPs. You know, you've got the people on the inside that know like the actual character directions and the set pieces and the art style, and kind of working hand in hand with another company to accomplish things is honestly the better approach than just saying, hey, Philips, I guess you can have the Zelda name. Though I seem to recall that the CDI games were made possible because of like some loophole with how the Philips CDI came to be, the actual console. But that's a whole nother discussion.
I actually met the QA, the QA head of the CDI games. I was in Seattle, and I came across her, and she's just said, yeah, we knew about like all the quality issues, but upper management just did not care at all.
That's amazing. You're like, yeah, so did anyone notice how terrible the controls are? Yeah,
they were well aware, according to her, at least 30 years so later. Funny. But
oh, that's so funny. One of these days I want to play those. I've seen a lot of playthroughs of them, you know, back in, I guess, 2011, 2012, when streaming video games was starting to take off. You know, I would watch a lot of like Zelda marathons, and that was always like at the end we'll probably play through the CDI game. So, you know, I've seen a lot of playthroughs of them, but never played it myself. And of course there are speedrunners of them that occasionally show up at like Games Done Quick, but
I've played through it. Right.
Oh, you have?
We have a CDI. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I need to come over and play it then. You have all three of them?
So we just have the Wand of Gamelon.
Okay.
However, the CDI is not capable of telling the difference between a fake CD and a real CD.
Well, there you go.
I'll just leave it at that.
Sounds good to me. But you know, that Zelda series is just so funny. The TV show that was just squeezed inside the Super Mario Super Show. And the Super Mario Super Show actually had a lot of charm to it. There were some really great animated elements telling like little stories about the Mushroom Kingdom and Mario's adventures. I would not necessarily say go back and watch them all and enjoy them all. They're pretty old and don't really hold up to modern storytelling and TV shows, but still a really fun show, and honestly happy that it exists. Plus the plumber rap, you know, that's real.
Your arms from side to side.
Come on, it's time. Let's go do the Mario.
It was, I don't know, even as a kid. Apparently I was fine with the cringe from Donkey Kong. I was not fine with the cringe from Super Mario Show.
That's so funny. You see, the Super Mario Super Show also just reminds me of Mario Teaches Typing.
Yeah. It feels like it just goes hand in hand with the CDI games.
Yeah.
It's surprising that it came out before the CDI games, because you would have thought that it was a TV show for the CDI games.
Yeah. Like, weren't the Mario CDI games like Mario's Hotel? Wasn't that the one?
Yeah. Yeah.
That gameplay is also awful. Go watch some videos of these games.
But back onto like movies and all that. So Super Mario Brothers movie was a complete flop, and Nintendo really didn't like how it just like ruined or hurt their brand, and they've had to like live with this for decades. So I'm pretty sure that they're pretty stingy with how much control they have available to them.
Right.
And I imagine that's why we haven't seen a movie in quite some time. We have seen, of course, stuff with like HAL and Pokemon Studios, and we'll get back to that. I do want to mention, though, that there were a few instances where Nintendo tried to step outside their comfort zone and make something, but ended up canceling it. So one of the earlier ones was they tried to do a Metroid movie back in like 2007 or so.
Yeah. Yep.
And the reason why they pulled the plug on that one was because at the time there wasn't enough kind of material to go off of for Samus's backstory. So the movie studio started writing Samus's backstory, and Nintendo lost it. They did not want Samus's backstory written by a third-party source. So they canned the project and made Other M. I don't know if that ended up better.
I mean, we don't talk about Other M.
Apparently we do.
Don't we still have to do an episode on Other M?
Yeah. But but that was one of the major like motivations for Other M, was that they would get Samus's backstory out and about so that we could potentially have a movie in the future.
To be fair to Other M, the backstory parts of Other M are probably the best parts of the story. It's like how her character changes during the events of the story that are not Samus.
I feel like the biggest problem was the narration. And
yeah. The narration was also awful.
Really, man, Sakamoto apparently tried to have too much control over the translation of the game, and it just did not work.
No.
The acting is very stinted, but I don't know if we can really blame the actors for that, because Sakamoto was the voice director for the English translation. And there's a lot of rumors that he just didn't know how to direct the cast at all.
I could see that. But, you know, Metroid has some of the best potential for either a movie or a TV series, in my opinion. Like, as much as I would love to have like a Zelda series or a really great Mario series, but, you know, the Mario series being based on the early Paper Mario games, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Metroid itself, I have long thought about how it could work as a TV show or as a movie. And I think that a TV series, like a live action TV series, would be the best for the property. Simply because I get like such awesome exploration vibes where each episode could technically be like self-contained, or it could explore an overarching story regarding Samus's backstory. You know, it could be her time when she was part of the Galactic Federation. That would be a really cool story to explore in movie or TV format. But even as like a bounty hunter, just her picking up jobs that aren't necessarily as crazy and ridiculous as the ones her games are based around could also work incredibly well. Plus, like, who wouldn't want to see Samus go beat the crap out of a bunch of aliens and just absolutely be an awesome character, you know?
I think the biggest concern with Metroid being a TV show instead of a movie, for me at least, is I don't think they would get the budget for the TV show to do Metroid justice.
Yeah, budgeting would be a problem.
CG would be pretty heavy for Metroid. And that's easier to get like a budget for it with a movie than it is for a TV show, because the TV show is just so much longer. You have to stretch out the budget a lot further.
Right. So I think they could definitely do a movie. I mean, I'd probably prefer the TV show because that's just the type of content I prefer to consume.
Well, and like you said, there's a lot more exploration to it. So if you wanted to capture the feel and essence of Metroid itself, the TV show would be the better way to go about it, because it'd be a long form entertainment. That's not how I imagine Hollywood would do it, though. After they would Hollywoodize it, they would try to make an action series rather than an adventure series. But
I mean, yeah, I would love Metroid to be more like Star Trek. Like, you know, not like all about diplomacy like many episodes of Star Trek are, but where everything is like self-contained and she goes off and she finds something new and interesting about the universe. And if there are some action heavy episodes where there are high stakes and high tension, amazing. But then there could also just be some calm ones where she finds this really pretty planet that maybe has some sort of problem. I don't know. I think it would work incredibly well. But I also think one of the reasons why Metroid would work really well is that we know that the original Metroid was heavily inspired by, like, what was it, Alien? No, what was the movie? Yeah, it was Alien.
The Ridley Scott films. That's why Ridley is named Ridley.
That's right. So, you know, a video game that already draws heavy inspiration from already movies would work really well.
Yeah, it would be nice to get like a modern so with Metroid, would we want something a bit more closer to Alien in that it's kind of space horror-esque even? That'd be an interesting take on a movie.
I think that would be incredibly awesome, and I would watch the heck out of it, even though I'm not really into horror like that.
At least some sort of like thriller aspect.
Yeah. I think that would be super cool. Oh man, I just am always looking forward to like media projects like this. I love playing video games, and as our listeners, if they've listened to previous episodes, know, we are the biggest Metroid stans on the planet, probably. Just maybe not, but I just would really love to see more of Samus, and she'd work so well outside of video games too.
Yeah, I think Metroid would work really well, and I think that's why Metroid was one of the, well, as far as we know, because like I'm sure there's been other projects that have been canned that Nintendo hasn't mentioned, but having Metroid be the one that they were going to come back to the movie scene for instead of Mario again, it was a bit surprising, except for of Nintendo's properties for live action, Metroid is going to be one of the easiest.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah. The second easiest would probably be Zelda. And I am astonished that we never got any Zelda projects during the like big boom of Lord of the Rings.
I know, right? Like, do you remember years ago, back, it was still kind of in the infancy of like online video and news regarding Nintendo stuff, but like IGN did an April Fool's prank forever ago where it was like live action Zelda and everyone lost their minds.
The costume design was pretty good, but man, the acting.
I mean, I still have Ganon's face just seared into my brain. It does not look that great, but it was still so cool. We were all like, yes, Nintendo, we want you to do this. I'd love to see Zelda for sure.
And we've heard that Netflix leaked that they had a Zelda project going on, and we know it's true because it got leaked, Nintendo actually canceled it.
Yeah.
And also pulled the rug on other projects that they had going on at the time. Adam Conover from Adam Ruins Everything said that he was working on a claymation Star Fox project.
Oh, that would have been so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Talk about like a very interesting idea. Man, I'm angry at whoever at Netflix leaked the Zelda thing. Not only did we not get Zelda, but man, a claymation Star Fox, that would have been something else. That's exactly the kind of like project I want to see, not a generic 3D animated film.
Yeah.
But yeah, so apparently because the Zelda project at Netflix got leaked, the claymation got canned as well in the same like sweep.
We can't trust anyone or whatever. Like, who knows what their actual reasoning was.
Nintendo's been known to do this. There was another like game back during, I think it was the Wii era, where they were trying to make a first person shooter that was Nintendofied, and it was going to be about like robots having like water guns and shooting each other, and water would short circuit the robots, and that's how they would die. And they had the Conduit developers making it. And then it got leaked that this project was in the works. So they canned the project, not fired, but like kicked the Conduit developers out of the project, and then turned it around to make Splatoon.
Yeah. And it's a shame that happened, but to be fair, Splatoon is also amazing. So
yeah, I think in the end, it worked better for Nintendo this way.
Yes.
But that hasn't been the case throughout the years.
Right.
And a lot of the times Nintendo just cans it and it's gone for good.
Which is such a shame. But kind of circling back to Zelda, because I still would like to mention how cool Zelda would be as beyond video games. I think that a live action Zelda series or TV show, you know, especially because of how popular Lord of the Rings and fantasy has been lately, would be amazing. But now considering like all of the super awesome animated fantasy TV shows that are coming out here in the West, like I am a huge fan of the adaptation of Critical Role, Vox Machina. Like if you have an Amazon Prime access, like you should watch it because it's super good. It is adult heavy though. So if you cannot stand like gore and adult themes, don't watch it, but I still absolutely loved it. There's also like a lot of other really cool animation projects that are under works. And we know that Japan anime, even though it's kind of focused more on the isekai side of things, they are also having a field day with fantasy themed worlds. And I just think that Zelda could slot in perfectly as an anime as well.
Yeah. Even if just like Netflix got their animation department to do a TV run, because Netflix game adaptations have been absolutely amazing so far. Arcane is one of the best TV shows I've ever seen.
Ooh, it's so good.
It was really, really well done. And I was completely shocked by that. Just because I'm not a League fan. I haven't played any League really. I play Runeterra a bit, but I don't care about
I haven't played either. So
the IP part of it. I just think that Runeterra itself is pretty neat. So I didn't know anything about the story. There didn't seem to be a lot of like hype going into it, and and it just kind of exceeded all expectations.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. Like, really good TV show, and you do not need to be a League fan to enjoy it, and you do not need to become a League player after you watch it.
If you just enjoy good fantasy, Arcane is great.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's also just got such a cool magic system, and the dynamics between different parts of the world are so cool.
Yeah. The world building and the character design and like character building and that are just, the writing is phenomenal. And then on top of that, it's got a high budget for animation.
So it looks incredible too. Oh,
Netflix also started this big boom with the Castlevania adaptation, which is also really good. I would say the second season really slows down, or not the second season, one of the two seasons. I think it's the third season. The third season like really slows down and is difficult to get through, but it picks up again. And
the final season is amazing. And the first season was also so fun to watch.
The first season was a really good treat when it came out. It was really short though. It was 4 episodes. It felt almost like a pilot, and in a way it kind of was. But
then they've also announced that there's like another Castlevania series coming out.
They're going to do Richter now.
Which is sick.
Yeah,
excited for more.
With Richter coming to Smash Bros, that he's definitely one of the more well-known characters. I'm surprised they still haven't done Simon.
Right.
I would have thought Simon would have been the first one, but they started with Trevor. Now they're skipping Simon for Richter. I think I don't know Castlevania lore too well.
I don't either. I just know it's super cool. But yeah, I mean, Nintendo maybe not handing over, but allowing and supervising Netflix to make something super cool would also work incredibly well.
And I believe the creator of the Netflix Castlevania series was asked like if he could do any project, what would it be? And he said Metroid, specifically Super Metroid.
Yeah, I think I remember that in like an interview or something. It'd be so cool. I mean, Metroid or Zelda would work so well. And even the style of Castlevania. Oh, whew. I get chills just thinking about it, Jordan.
And then the other project that Netflix did recently was the Cyberpunk anime, which is also phenomenal. But if you are not too big of a fan of like adult content, maybe steer away from that one. That one's very violent.
Yeah. But I mean, there's just this renaissance right now of really good TV shows. Of course, there's some super awful ones as well. But the type of genre that most Nintendo properties, or at least the ones that are really easy to adapt, like those are the shows that I think are thriving the most right now.
Video game TV shows are doing pretty well. Video game movies are still kind of struggling.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think TV is better just because of that long form storytelling. You have more ability to make an interesting story from a TV show, whereas movies are so fast that you can't really get much of a character arc going with like 2 or 3 characters, let alone like a whole cast of characters. And video games tend to have a lot of side characters to them.
Right. And video games are typically meant to be played over longer periods, which is why the TV shows work well. Like, even if a video game is like 40 hours and the story can be boiled down to a couple that could fit into a movie, that whole like pacing element of you exploring areas or doing particular tasks or whatever makes it feel like it's a longer story than it actually is, which is why the pacing of a movie might be a little bit too abrupt or rushed for a story like a video game would tell. But I will say, though, like there has been one really good video game movie. I really loved Sonic.
I liked Sonic. I just recently saw the second one as well. Have you seen both of them?
I saw it. I've seen it recently.
Yeah, it was on Prime, so I figured I'd just watch the second one. Fun fact, the first movie was the last movie I saw in theaters before the pandemic, but and I always joked that I wouldn't return to the movies till the second one, so that like the pandemic begins with Sonic and it ends with Sonic, but then I ended up missing Sonic anyway.
That's funny. I mean, I think they did a great job with the adaptation. Like, yeah, it's not really the story of Sonic from the video games, but it's like a cool little like alternate reality version of Sonic if he got sucked into the real world, which is kind of similar to how some of the anime was, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, it works with Sonic because the games and the anime already kind of have Sonic
splintered the universe.
Yeah, it works with Sonic. With that said, I still don't like the human stuff. It's fine that they're there, but you can tell that they clearly do it to cut like costs of the film.
So they don't have to animate every scene.
Yeah, like that wedding part of the second movie just lasted way too long.
Yeah, it really did. But Sonic was really funny, and I think it was a pretty cool adaptation anyway. I mean, the story was pretty good for it being a video game movie and aimed for kids, and there was a lot of really good humor in it, even if it had one of like the worst fart jokes ever.
Yeah, so I'm glad that they went back and like redesigned Sonic for that movie because the fans did not want the original design. I do kind of wish though that they would have a special feature mode like with their DVDs where they just put back in the old Sonic.
That'd be so funny.
It'd be really expensive. They'd never do it, but
look at his creepy eyes. Watch them and his human teeth.
Oh no.
I mean, that just reminds me of like that fan rendition of Tails in the same art style, and it's also horrifying.
It looks like Mr. Fantastic Fox.
Yeah. Oh, so funny.
But yeah, so you had the Sonic movies, which were received fairly positive. And then also we had the Detective Pikachu movie, which I enjoyed.
Yeah, I loved it.
It was apparently, are they doing a sequel? I've heard mixed things.
So the last I heard is they had plans or were in kind of pre-production for the movie, and then they decided not to do it.
Interesting. Maybe they didn't get Ryan Reynolds again, or they couldn't.
Well, I mean, he's coming back for Deadpool 3. He's a little busy. Plus, he now owns a soccer team or a football team in the UK. So, and like 8 other companies. I don't know.
I really appreciate that movie kind of focused on Pokemon as a whole, rather than just being like nostalgia bait for Gen 1ers and maybe even Gen 2. My favorite part of that whole movie is just the Ludicolo. Ludicolo is one of my favorite Pokemon. And the fact that they nailed him perfectly right there.
Yes.
Like
they nailed so many things perfectly in that movie. Like so many of the Pokemon just feel correct, you know, like they actually live in that world. And the city design was also super cool with the Pokemon everywhere. And I mean, it had a fairly predictable plot in my opinion, but it was still a fun ride the entire time.
Wasn't it kind of following the game in a way? I haven't played the game.
Yeah, so, I haven't played the game either, but I mean,
so how much of that is the movie's fault that it was predictable?
Well, and as far as I understand it, like it never fully resolved in the game itself, like who was actually the bad guy or whatever. So of course they had to change some things for the movie, which is another reason why fans are like, what has happened to Detective Pikachu Part 2?
It's in development.
Is that game ever coming out?
It's feature creep, man. They got to get Ryan Reynolds to play Pikachu in the video game, and it's just
yeah. But anyway, the movie is super fun. The comedy is really great. I mean, of course it is because it's Ryan Reynolds. He's a super funny and very smart man. And I don't know, like it was just such a fun experience to watch. I still remember the first time I saw it in theaters. I saw it a couple of times actually. And then I actually own the Blu-ray. You know, that's one of the few physical copies of a movie from the last few years that I actually own. So
yeah, it was pretty surprising to get a live action Pokemon and also a live action that kind of worked, actually. There was a lot of hesitancy around it. A lot of people were worried that they'd make the Pokemon look bad, but either the people who how involved was the Pokemon company?
I have no idea.
Because the people in charge of like making sure the Pokemon were on model and all that, they did pretty well. With the exception of like the giant Torterras. I'm pretty sure Torterra's not that size.
Well, they
were like experimented to be that way, right?
Yes, there was a science element in the lab where they were definitely
they
made
had
to
a lore
be
reason for that, I guess. So
yes,
because
there were regular sized Torterras in the lab as well, and then they're like gigantification or something. Anyway.
Yeah, so they did their research. They knew what they were doing, and they clearly loved Pokemon as a property and not just like specific generations. So it ended up a lot better than I expected. But yeah, I like Detective Pikachu. My mom wanted to go see it, and so I took her to the theaters for that one. And then she was like asking me, because like she doesn't play many video games, and then she was asking like, so are we going to get a Super Smash Brothers movie? I'm like, no.
Oh man, could you imagine a Smash movie? That'd be sick.
Like she was waiting for, I don't know, Master Hand to show up in the end credits, and I'm like, man, it'd be so easy to do an after credits scene for Smash Brothers in Nintendo films, because all you have to do is just have like the image of a letter with a red seal on it. That's it. That's all you need to do.
Exactly. I mean, it could even have like a small little title that says like the Smash Brothers Initiative or something dumb.
Well, you can't get too close to Marvel, right? But
no, you can't. You can get a little close, but not that close, probably. But I just looked it up, and it looks like the movie was produced. The production companies were both Legendary Pictures and the Pokemon Company. So it looks like the Pokemon Company absolutely had a lot of say in the film, but given how well it turned out, it makes me think that they did not control the story as much as, maybe some people might have thought they would have.
But also, Pokemon Company is a lot better at managing multimedia projects than Nintendo is.
Oh, easily. They hand their stuff off to other people all the time.
Yeah, Pokemon is as big as it is because it's a multimedia property.
Oh, easy. I mean, you've got many different game developer companies working on different projects. You've got whatever studio they have in charge of the anime. They've got all sorts of subsidiaries and business partners with merch and the trading card game. And it works out super well for them because they're so good at it.
Yeah. And the anime is a very good tool at getting people into the property.
Yes.
Into the fandom.
I mean, the anime has had its ups and downs for sure. Kind of speaking of Nintendo-based properties and media, the first season and the second season, most people in our generation, at least, absolutely love them. Super iconic. It may not be because they're actually good, but because we were all little and Pokemon was a huge craze back when we were young. There are definitely some very bad seasons of the anime, like everything that was about black and white was awful.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, like the first episode is Ash literally forgetting everything about battling Pokemon. They're like, why did you send out Pikachu against a ground type, Ash? He's like, what do you mean? And then they teach him about type advantages. And it's like, this is the 5th region you've traveled to, my boy. Like, you were a runner-up in one of the, leagues not too long ago.
I remember seeing like a bunch of people mocking black and white because there's a clear progression of time in earlier seasons, and then at the beginning of black and white, he's like, I'm 10 years old or something.
Yeah.
They clearly state in the Indigo League that a year has passed. Like, he has to be a minimum of 11 years old.
I know, and they've been pretty bad at that ever since. Like, he's still canonically 10 or something, even though he had a birthday party or something. It's super weird. But I also just have to advocate for Pokemon Journeys and Pokemon Master Journeys, and even the Sun and Moon anime, though I haven't seen much of the Sun and Moon anime. Journeys has actually been a wonderful treat, and it makes me happy when I watch it. I know it's not, top tier anime, whatever the top shows are right now and how stacked fall anime season is. But I really enjoyed Pokemon Journeys, even if it doesn't take place in the Galar region in its entirety. Ash is actually a really like his character has actually like grown up a little bit. And instead of him just being like the super obnoxious, I'm going to beat everyone kid, he still is like, I'm going to beat everyone. But he actually like accepts defeat and learns from it, which is so good for Ash's character. And Chloe is the freaking cutest companion that he's ever had. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still think Serena is the best candidate for Ash when they finally grow up, if they ever grow up in like 200 years. Chloe's been absolutely wonderful. And I just love Pokemon Journeys because it's just cute. It's got fun little isolated stories and it's animated really well.
Yeah, I stopped watching Pokemon around midway through Hoenn just because I grew out of the anime part. I still played the games, of course.
Yeah, that's actually when I fell out too, like consistently watching.
But as a kid, I really did enjoy basically every season. I even enjoyed the Orange League.
I thought the Orange League was really fun and clever.
It was a good way to do a filler season. Yeah.
Had a lot of weird bits and pieces to it. But I loved how Ash would just ride his Lapras everywhere with his team.
Yeah. Riding Lapras, just that feels like a really nostalgic thing for me just because it was such a major part of that season. I don't know. Maybe I just really enjoy sailing anime because I'm a huge One Piece fan as well. But
I mean, yeah,
just the idea of being able to go out on a boat and just have no idea where you're going to end up. That sense of adventure, I really do enjoy.
Yeah. But, you know, the Pokemon anime has been chugging along pretty strongly, and some of the more recent episodes actually have Ash in like the real, like basically I want to say worldwide, but it's very clearly not worldwide because there are regions in the Pokemon world that haven't even been created yet by the Pokemon company. But there are trainers from all over the known regions that are actually in a huge tournament, and Ash is going up against the likes of like Lance and Steven and Cynthia and all sorts of like top notch players. And it's a really fun way to see that he's actually learned how to battle with Pokemon. So Journeys has been really fun.
I will say my favorite Pokemon anime project, it was Pokemon Origins.
Oh yeah. I was about to get to that.
The reason why is because it is the most game correct season or anime project that Pokemon has done.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Easily.
Just the fact that the Pokemon don't no longer say their names and do growls and stuff, and there's a bit more like danger around Team Rocket than in like the main anime. Yeah.
And it actually has like systems in place that are real, like how you would expect it to be in the real world, like the gym system. You literally see Brock like, oh, this is your first badge? Well, I'll just use these two Pokemon. And he has like 6 Pokeballs in a slot that he chooses from. And it's just like, yes, this is how it would be because the children are not going from town to town in the exact order that the games originally stated. You know, it's an actual league and they go around depending on where they start. And I just thought that was so cool. Plus, there are really great storytelling moments. I don't know. It's just really fun to watch.
Yeah, I kind of wish that league system would be carried over into the games, especially this upcoming Scarlet and Violet game.
It is too hard to program that, Jordan. You cannot simply just put a check for what is the average or highest level Pokemon on your team and build a team around that.
You don't need to do
That's
that.
impossible.
Just how many badges do they have? This is my team. This is the third battle. It would take like an afternoon.
Yeah, but they have to balance the teams, you know, the super competitively trained and super hard teams that are the Pokemon gyms in recent generations. It's so hard, Jordan.
I don't think
it would take them at least 2 days.
They could outsource that to fans.
They could. Anyway, there were some other really good Pokemon projects that were online based. Like the other really great one is Pokemon Generations, which is also very true to each of the games.
Yeah. And it explores more of the games as well.
Yes. Like each episode is a different game, and it's usually one of the big important story moments from the games. And it's really good. And Pokemon Evolutions, which was kind of the more recent one, kind of does that a little bit again, though I don't think it did it quite as well as Generations did.
Yeah. So we've been talking about like these other projects Nintendo's been doing in the past. Pokemon is very healthy with their multimedia projects. Nintendo, not so much. So Nintendo's trying to change that recently with the new Super Mario Bros. Movie. They're starting with Mario again as their flagship title, which is honestly the correct way to go about it.
Yeah.
Mario
Easily.
is the most recognizable Nintendo exclusive property.
Yep.
Pokemon, of course, is the biggest property, but Nintendo doesn't have 100% ownership of that.
Right. And if they did, we would not have as many Pokemon projects as we do.
I don't know quite so much about that, because the anime worked so well with Pokemon in the beginning that it just made business sense to keep it going.
Yeah, you've got a point. But anyway, the actual Super Mario Bros. Movie, we are actually recording the day that New York Comic-Con panel with the actual teaser reveal happened. So it's super fresh in our minds and we're excited to talk about it. I mean, it was a really interesting direct. It wasn't very long. And of course, like Jordan mentioned at the beginning, the timing was weird because it was specifically a panel at New York Comic-Con where they just showed that video there and live streamed it everywhere else on the face of the planet. And it was just kind of fun to see Miyamoto on his trademark white background. He's apparently never leaving that room, Jordan.
They locked Miyamoto in the white void.
I mean, that's where he came from when he talked about Pikmin 4 in the last direct. So
hashtag free Miyamoto.
Let's get that started, everybody. And, you know, he just kind of talked about how excited he was to share what's been happening, turned it over to, what was it, the president of Illumination or one of the main guys in charge of the movie? It wasn't one of the directors.
Some Illumination guy.
So his name was also Chris, which made things a little confusing for
some
people.
Some corporate head.
Yeah. And he talked about how it's a pleasure to work with Nintendo. And I'm like, cool. I'm glad to hear that.
It's a pleasure to make profit off Nintendo.
I mean, Illumination is kind of a money printing movie company. They just churn out all sorts of kids movies.
I was very disappointed when I heard that they chose Illumination for their first project. Of all the 3D animation projects or studios out there, they're not my favorite. I can think of worse ones out there, but yeah, I would say they're like definite mid-tier studio.
Yeah, I mean, the first Despicable Me was pretty good and funny, but I have not wanted to watch like anything after that.
But yeah, so like the first Despicable Me was really good for its time, and then they've just been riding off the success of that movie ever since.
Right, with like two sequels, a Minions only prequel, and then like another prequel, and then similarly styled movies with like pets and stuff. So anyway, Illumination was an interesting choice. But after the corporate head said some words, he passed it over to Chris Pratt, who's voicing Mario. And I swear Chris was like reading some cards or something that his publicist put together.
It did not sound genuine at all.
No, especially the part where he was like, yeah, I loved playing Mario and stomping on all of the pause, Koopas. And he like said it in such a weird way too. You're like, okay, but the arcade version he was talking about didn't actually have Koopas. They were called like shell somethings. I mean, and you don't stomp on them.
Mario fan isn't even going to know that part though.
Okay, but you don't stomp on them in the arcade game either. You hit them from underneath and then you kick them away.
Yeah.
There's no jumping on top of enemies in that game, okay? But anyway, that was just kind of like a funny little lore history thing about Mario. But it really sounded so like fake. Even if he is a Mario fan and has played the games, it did not come across that way at all. But after that, Jack Black came on and he like stole the show for a moment. Just like so full of personality. You could tell that he like actually thought the things that he was saying, it didn't seem like he was reading anything at all. And he seemed genuinely excited to be playing Bowser.
Yeah. And also Jack Black kind of has a bit more credibility in the gaming space.
Oh, easy.
He's voice acted in video games before. He was a big part of The Living Legend, I believe it was. I don't remember. It was some Double Fine game back in the Wii era. And he's a huge fan of games like Grim Fandango and stuff like that. So
he's also a really good voice actor anyway. Like he did the Kung Fu Panda movies and also voiced Poe in all of the TV shows, because he was so dedicated to the character. And
and to be fair, Chris Pratt has also voiced in some movies. He did the Lego movie.
Right. And he also did one of the Pixar movies.
But both of those, Chris Pratt was kind of just Chris Pratt. And also, to be fair, Jack Black is kind of just Jack Black in most of his films, which was the first thing that I noticed. Jack Black doesn't sound exclusively Jack Black in this new movie. He does sound like he's actually trying to be Bowser.
Right, because it was so cool, like how they started the trailer. Instead of it being like all about Mario, it was like, here's Bowser taking over the Penguin Kingdom. Like, it was sick. And he just like comes down, and he didn't sound like Jack Black at all, like you said. It was so cool to hear that.
Yeah.
Plus, he looked amazing. Like, I don't know how Illumination pulled it off, but they made Bowser look so cool.
I don't really enjoy that the penguins all just sound like normal people.
Yeah.
So I guess every character is just going to sound like a normal person in this movie.
Yeah, even Kamek sounded like a normal person.
Yeah. They're not going to have any like spin to it. They're going to go for a less cartoony approach to the voicing, which is fine. They want to cast a wider net for their audience,
right?
Rather than being a bit more close to how they would have been in game.
Right. And then after the Bowser portion, it cuts to Mario being ejected out of a pipe and being like, where am I? So it's confirmed that this is an isekai movie.
So is he from Brooklyn again? Is it going to be canon?
Well, the other crazy thing is like Luigi is also there. So like, when did Luigi show up? Because Luigi's being chased by all those dry bones in like a lava area. So like, did they get teleported at separate times, or are they actually from the Mushroom Kingdom and Mario is experiencing like amnesia or something? Or is it?
My guess is that they show up at different times, that Luigi goes in after Mario to try and find him.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's a very like typical Hollywood movie thing to do.
Yeah. So, but it was kind of funny. The interactions with Toad were honestly pretty funny, in my opinion. I don't know. I'm kind of upset that the only real difference between this Toad and a Toad in any other Mario game is he has like a backpack. But again, I have to remind myself that this movie is casting a wide net and is trying to be like, this is a Toad, and he is very clearly a Toad from the Mario games and not a Toad that has any personality beyond that.
Yeah, and we saw from the movie poster that all the Toads are pretty much just Toads.
Right.
I'm just glad that this Toad talks and isn't minion-fied. That's one thing I was really worried was going to happen.
Right, and also doesn't screach like Toads do in the Mario games.
Yeah, he's a character. He's not, I don't know, merchandise fodder.
Oh boy!
Oh no.
like that would be great. No, don't do that. But it was a really short clip of the movie, only a couple minutes.
Yeah, it was just a teaser, and we still have like half a year to go before we see the actual movie. I did kind of hope that we'd see the Kongs, but I just need to be put at ease that Seth Rogen's not going to tear apart Donkey Kong, but
yeah,
we'll find out soon.
We'll find out soon for sure. I imagine we'll get a trailer probably in December. Yeah, I could see them trying to push it as like full trailers in front of like some of the December movies that are coming out. I don't know what December movies are coming out.
We'll get a trailer on Thanksgiving weekend, and then that works. Also a trailer on the Super Bowl weekend.
I can see that.
And those will be the two big drop dates for the trailers.
Makes sense to me. And then we'll finally get to hear what Peach sounds like and see the Kongs, hopefully. And maybe a little bit more of the Mushroom Kingdom.
With how movie trailers are today, we'll get the whole movie by then.
Oh, that's right. It'll be the whole plot, including how Mario defeats Bowser. Anyway, I think I'm excited somewhat for the movie. I still have my doubts because we've only seen a small teaser, but from what I've seen, it looks like it'll be good. And at the very least, Jack Black will carry the entire film on his back.
I was a bit concerned about the music choices in the trailer, with it being just generic movie.
Well, Yeah. And see, I was cursed with that knowledge because I actually listened to a podcast literally like 3 days ago about the sounds behind movie trailers and how cliche they've gotten in the last like 10 years.
Basically, what was it? Inception ruined movie trailers.
Yeah, basically. And even that like piano that's like starts off slow and then goes into something recognizable, like that's from like 10 years ago too, you know, maybe not necessarily Inception, but anyway, I was just listening to the sounds and I was just like, oh my gosh, they are really pulling the movie trailer tropes on us here.
Yeah.
So
I'm hoping for more Mario music, not just from like the original games, but from like throughout the entire franchise of Mario, and having it being like this big giant orchestrated piece with like a full orchestra and all that.
yeah, I think we'll get that. They did mention that the composers of the music are actually working closely with Koji Kondo himself.
Yeah.
So I imagine that the music we heard in the trailer is not representative of what's actually in the film.
Okay. So hopefully that's the case.
Well, the film also sampled the Super Mario Bros. Super Show plumber rap. That do that plays. It was literally ripped right from that version, like the plumber rap, which is hilarious.
Oh no.
It's not the actual NES sounds. I actually went and grabbed the audio from both and lined them up in the audio editing program that I use, put one in one ear and one in the other, and it sounded identical. So there you have it, some trivia. They just ripped that right from the Super Mario Bros. Super
Maybe
Show.
he will do the plumber rap.
Swing your arms from side to side. Like, I could honestly see them doing that as a joke or reference.
They could do that in the end credits.
They could do that in the end credits. If they don't do it in the end credits, then Mario is just going to say the words and not actually sing them. Or if it is like an isekai and Mario realizes that in the Mushroom Kingdom he has super crazy jump powers now, then maybe that's like the training montage as he sings the rap.
So I guess the plot is just that Bowser's going around collecting power stars.
It looks like it.
And there's probably, I'm going to guess that there's going to be 8 kingdoms, and one of the kingdoms will be the Kong Kingdom, and he'll conquer that before going for the Mushroom Kingdom or whatever.
I mean, makes sense. That's kind of how the Mario plots work. At least Mario Bros. 3, you know, very similar to that. Where Mario travels to like literally 7 or 8 worlds to save them or whatever. Though 7 is usually the like magic number in the Mario plot heavy games for powerful items that are needed to collect. But that's just me spitballing.
So it'll be interesting to see this play out. I am not as concerned as I was before. This has actually eased a bunch of my nerves. There's still a lot of room for Illumination to mess things up.
Yeah, a lot of room. But hey, we'll find out in a few months here.
Yeah.
So
interestingly, though, Nintendo recently purchased Dynamo Pictures or Dynamo Studios, I don't remember which, and have have trademarked Nintendo Pictures as a subsidiary. So there's a lot of speculation that this means Nintendo is going to start making their future projects in-house.
I could see that. That'd be very cool. It's weird though. They like specifically say, and they're like, what is the purpose of this company? It's like more for motion capture so that they can better animate models in their games.
Well, you want to know what Dynamo Pictures is known for?
Yeah.
they did the CGI or the the cutscenes for Other M.
Huh. We weren't going to talk about Other M anymore.
To be fair, they didn't like write the script or direct.
Right.
And the cutscenes in Other M were absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, they were super cool.
That was the best part of Other M, honestly.
Oh, easily. Even if the story did not go well with them, they still looked really cool. But so we'll have to see what Nintendo ends up doing with that studio. They probably realize that outsourcing to another company like Illumination brings a lot of overhead with it if they want to have a lot of control over the characters and story. So it might make more sense to have an internal studio that handles that more. Well,
so
whatever.
That's kind of one thing I'm really excited about. So we saw in this trailer that Nintendo's hand of don't do anything too creative is definitely being a part of this movie. There's
Right.
not a lot of creative freedom with the character design so far. We had a Koopa with an eye patch and a penguin with a cape and a toad
And a
with
crown.
a backpack.
The penguin had a crown too, Jordan.
Oh, yeah. And a toad with a backpack. And that's it. That is their like character wardrobes. And it's like, yeah, I want a bit more variety to the NPCs in the movies.
Well, there were two fairly unique Koopas as well in Bowser's lineup.
Fairly unique is a bit of a liberal use of the term.
This isn't Paper Mario level unique character design.
Yeah, it's still not great. I would definitely prefer a lot more creative liberty with these projects. And if Nintendo only feels comfortable doing that in-house, then I hope that they move in-house for their other projects going forward.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Though, is it totally confirmed that they're doing a Donkey Kong movie, or is that like a rumor based on...
I believe it's a rumor. I don't know if it was ever officially confirmed, but so many tabloids are running with it that they basically think it's confirmed. So everyone just talks about it as if it is confirmed, even though I don't think it's ever been officially announced.
Yeah, they're saying that it's going to be like Seth Rogen again, right? So it seems to be like a
It would be another
continuation of the Mario
Illuminations
movie or something.
So either like moving towards a Super Smash Brothers initiative, or just we have all the models for Donkey Kong anyways. It wouldn't cost that much to do another movie.
We'll have to see if that works out. Again, my enjoyment of that movie and yours, if I am extrapolating correctly, will depend on how good Seth Rogen is at Donkey Kong.
I'm expecting terrible. I am not. Seth Rogen is another one of those voice actors who just plays Seth Rogen in every film, which it sounds like they tried to make Jack Black and Chris Pratt sound different in this movie. So maybe there's a bit more direction in that case, and Seth Rogen won't be so bad. But I'm just waiting for the Seth Rogen laugh to come out. And I'll cringe.
I can't wait. I can't wait. It's going to be a great moment in the film where we're all just sitting there and Donkey Kong jumps on screen and then he just does his Seth Rogen laugh. And that's the first impression we get. So, I don't know. Looking forward to the future, I think that there's a lot of potential when it comes to Nintendo properties regarding films and TV shows. As we've mentioned before, it'll honestly just depend primarily, I think, on the success of the Mario movie. If it's actually good, I'm not saying like, I mean, if it does monetarily well, then yes, of course, they'll make more. But in my opinion, the success will hinge on if the film is actually good or not. But regarding that, like that will probably lead to Nintendo branching out a little bit more with other series as well.
Yeah, hopefully. Obviously, Metroid would be the one I'd want to see the most. Oh,
yes,
actually, the one I want to see the most is the Claymation Star Fox. Bring it back.
Yeah, bring it back. They could easily do it. There's probably a lot of pre-production work on like how the series would work. But anyway,
I think that does it for this week, though.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I don't know if there's much else to say about multimedia when it comes to Nintendo. So I guess we'll wrap up here.
Yeah. Definitely looking forward to the future of the Nintendo Cinematic Universe.
The Smash Brothers initiative. Can't wait. Anyway, well, thanks so much for listening to this episode of the NintenFusion podcast. We've had a lot of fun talking about all of these Nintendo properties and how they fared or how they could fare with TV shows and movies. If you enjoyed the episode, please be sure to leave us a like on YouTube and a review on whatever podcast app you're listening on. Doing so will help others find the show so that it can continue to grow. If you want to chat with us about all of these fun Nintendo topics, head on over to our Discord at nintenfusion.com/Discord. That'll send you a link right to our Discord and you can chat with us about stuff. But with all that said, I think that's all we have for you this week. So thanks again for listening and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.
See ya.